Hey guys, so we're back. Sorry it's been a minute, and sorry I have like no makeup on. I know I look horrible. It is what it is. I had like a stomach virus or like food poisoning or something for about 3 or 4 days. I could barely even get out of bed. Luckily, I was able to get well in time before me and my husband got to celebrate our 17th anniversary. So that was a nice thing. I was really worried about that. Anyway, let's get back to this. I'm kind of sad. This is our very last video talking about all the people that I got to meet. And this one's an interesting one. This person was super busy on Saturday. So this is how it came down. On Friday, we were able to get like, I want to say it was like 18 items signed. And I think it was like 17 of them were different people. And then Saturday, I was only able to get one autograph, and then Sunday I was only able to land one as well. I got this mask from CSR Collectibles, and it already had the stunt guy on here, and I needed to add a couple more there, so I was able to. So Saturday, the only person I was able to get was Nick Castle. And unfortunately, Saturday was like his busiest day. So I tried Friday to get him, but the line was just so long that I decided to try and get everybody else and then come back to him on Saturday. And I'm glad that I did, because so we get there Saturday, get in his line. It was really long. After standing there for a little bit, they announced that he had went away to the photo ops, and he had like panels to do that day. And they was like, well, you know, it's going to be about 2 hours before he comes back. A lot of people didn't want to wait 2 hours, right? So they leave and go do their own thing. My husband was like, you know what, y'all go look at vendors and do other stuff. I'll stay here in line. So me and my daughter, we go up and down, you know, all these vendor aisles and stuff, and we get to the very back of the room, right? This place is pretty big. Saturday, it's so freaking busy. You're like single file lining it everywhere. And he calls me. I mean, we no sooner got to the back, and he was like, hey, Nick Castle's here. He's only got 5 minutes. He snuck away. He snuck away from him. They don't know he's missing yet. You better hurry. It took us like 3 minutes to get from one end to the other. We were booking it. But anyway, so I get up there, and this guy was he was so exhausted. I felt so bad for him. First off, you know, all these people are a lot older now. And like, I couldn't blame him for not standing up or anything like that. He was just exhausted. So when I gave him the piece, he was like, do y'all mind coming down here and sitting with me? Well, I'd sign it. You know, he just needed a break off his feet, poor guy. But it was funny to find out that he's a rebel. So he snuck away from these photo ops and stuff just to come back down there and sign some more. So I thought that was pretty funny. I didn't really get to see a lot of his personality. My husband had the camera this time, so he was actually able to get quite a few pictures, you know, as he was signing it and us just sitting there, and then us posing with him as well. So that was a cool thing. I wish I would have gotten to have more time with him, because I know for a fact he's got a personality. He was just exhausted this day. I picked a bad day to meet him. You know, it was so sad. But Sunday and even Friday, but especially Sunday, you could be walking by their table and stuff. And it's so funny because him and James Jude Courtney would kind of like hurl these like playful insults at each other, you know what I mean? And James G. Courtney is something else. He really is. And so like there's this one point we're walking by, and he's like, yeah, you know, Nick Castle's going away at lunch, the douchebag. I mean, it's so funny. So they have a really, really playful kind of friendship, and kind of vulgar too. I dig it. It was pretty funny. So that was my experience with Nick Castle. It really wasn't a whole lot. I wish it would have been more, but I could say Sunday, from what I seen of him, he took his time with people. He was always smiling, and you could tell he was just a lot more relaxed. All right, my very favorite, hands down, man, James Jude Courtney was my favorite person that I met. This guy is just everything. I wasn't expecting it. I really wasn't. So I actually was ready to leave after the Eileen Deans incident, you know. After dealing with that for about 20 minutes, I was like, you know what, let's just go. I'm not feeling it anymore. You know, we had already gotten like, I think it was 17 by this point, and my husband was like, well, you know, his line is not very long. Let's go ahead and get him. So I was like, all right, you know, it was already heading out the door. I'm in line, and I go up to him finally, and I hand him this, and then I hand him just like a regular Sharpie. And he was like, hey, how are you doing? I mean, instantly sparks up the conversation. Before you even have anything to say, he's already starting the conversation. And I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting a bubbly guy. You know, you see bubbly women all the time. You meet them. I've never one time met a bubbly guy. This guy was just so at ease. He was just, it's so natural for him. It was so weird. It took me off guard completely. I handed this and he was like, how are you enjoying it? Talking about the convention, and I was like, well, it's my first time. He said, really? He said, well, I'll tell you right now, you don't want to sign the mask and a Sharpie. Do you mind if I use my paint pen? I was like, no, you're the expert, you do it. I had no idea. Nobody ever told me. And he was like, okay, so I get to pop your cherry. I mean, the guy I about died. Oh my God. So my husband burst out laughing, and he's got the camera and he's, taking all these pictures and stuff. But it was freaking hilarious. Like, he has just got away. I don't know, man. It was like after meeting him, I rode on like a high. He has just like such a good freaking vibes that you get from this guy. And it just boosted my night. So I ended up leaving and such a freaking, it was a whole complete turnaround. I was so disappointed. And then when I left this guy's table, it was just everything. Like, he was awesome. Boosted my mood all up again. And anyway, so I'm not exactly sure about everything we talked about, honestly, guys, because the more like I sit there and listen to him talk, and it was kind of like I was almost like starstruck in a way. I never thought that would happen, because I could honestly, I look at everybody as like, it's a person. But this guy, his demeanor, just everything about him was just so bubbly and just so, it's almost like you were talking to somebody that you've known your entire life. There's just no awkwardness. There was nothing weird, no weirdness at all. He just he's good at what he does. Like, I will have to say, like, if it's an act, he's probably the best actor in the world, because he seems to enjoy it so much. And that's what I want to think, that he is just that into his fans and everything, that he just likes to shoot the shit with everybody, And so I get everything done and getting it put back in my backpack and stuff. And my husband, he goes around, shakes my husband's hand. He's out there talking to my husband for, I don't even know what the hell they were talking about but for the longest time. So we get over there, get to the back of his table and stuff. And he comes up and he takes a picture with me, a couple pictures actually. And then he was like, come on, daughter, get over here. So my daughter goes around and gets in the picture as well. And it was so funny because his like grip, he grabs you, but it's soft. It's like, he's a strong guy, so he grabs you firmly, but he's soft when he does it. But it was so funny because when he did that, like, my daughter was like, it was just, it caught us off guard. It was like, oh, okay. But anyway, he ended up being mine and my husband's favorite person to meet. He is just such a bubbly guy, and he's so playfully vulgar that you just gotta love him, man. He is my kind of people. Yeah. So loved him. Sunday comes, and oh Lord, I didn't think I was going to get this person. My goal going into it was Friday I was going to try to get this person, but they made it to where it was only you could get this person VIP if you were VIP, which I wasn't. So Saturday there was no way in hell I was going to try to fight that crowd. And Sunday I was like, well, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. The place opened, let's see, Sunday it opened at 11. And I get there early. I wait in line for about 40 minutes, and I am in this person's ticket line. So for John Carpenter, you had to be in multiple lines. I had the convention line to get into. You got to go right away to get a ticket. The ticket looked like this right here, and it's got John Carpenter's initials up here. But anyway, this is the second line that you had to wait in order to get this, just to get upstairs to him. And then you had to wait in line for the third time. So we get up in the line upstairs by 11:20, and I'm thinking, oh my God, the doors opened at 11. I got all this taken care of by 11:20. We're on a roll here. That's not how it happened. Anyway, he leaves to go to lunch, and then they announce, like, okay, he's going to lunch now. He'll be back around 2:30. Just wait patiently here. If some people ended up leaving the line. I was nervous going into him. Well, at first I didn't care. It was just one I needed, and I looked at it that way. Like, it would be nice to get him if I can get him. I wasn't too worried about it either way, to be honest, because, and here's the reason why, because I kind of let hearing stuff through the grapevine, I think, sway my opinion on this person. And I'm just going to say, don't let people do that. You know, like I said in the beginning of these videos, everyone has different experience. Some people have bad days and everything. So I've actually heard some really bad things about John Carpenter. But like I said, it was just hearsay, you know, going based on what other people were saying. But I've heard that he was just really an ass, and that he's like ruined cast sign pieces because he'll just like sign anywhere. For 2 hours, we were sitting there in these lines. These people that sit up there and control these lines and stuff were just making matters worse. I legit thought when I was going to go in here to meet, this is going to be the biggest ass I've ever met in my life, because they were just so extreme. I'm going to say the word extreme with it. So some of the stuff I can see, you know, not to do. Other stuff, it just seemed kind of like a power trip in a way. Which to me, in my mind, if I already had this set in my mind that he wasn't going to be the friendliest guy, you know, and that they were just kind of adding the stuff on top of it, it just seemed like, well, it seems fitting from what I've heard, you know. I was very kind of narrow-minded going into it, so that's wrong on my part. But anyway, so we're standing in line, and first off, they're like, do not remove any of your clothing to show any tattoo. He could care less about any tattoo. And I'm like, oh, I could see that. Who the hell... Who removes their clothing to show a tattoo? You know, like, he's a human being too. Be freaking a human being. Like, what the, really, people? Come on now. But they were like, don't ask him to quote any quotes. If you have a quote you want him to say, then you tell him the quote. He's wrote too many movies to know what he's written, you know, to remember all these lines. And so I'm like, okay, you know, and he's older. I can see that too, which both of these things didn't apply to me, obviously. And it should be damn common sense on a lot of it. But, you know, and then it got to like stuff that was like, okay, so to meet John Carpenter, it's $125, and then it's another $100 to take a picture at the table. Okay, so a table pick was $100. If you wanted to buy one of his 8x10s, I think they were $10, and 11x14s were an extra $15, and prices just went up from there. If you wanted something inscribed, you know, quoted, anything like that, it was an additional some odd money. I don't remember it all, okay, but so $125 for the signature, and they were like, you must have exact cash, because if you get up there and you don't have cash, then, and we can't give you change, then you're going to go back to the back of the line, you know. And I was thinking, well, why don't they have like a chip reader? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I get having exact cash, okay, you know, but what if some people don't? You know what I mean? It's Sunday. Maybe they've wiped their money out on everything else. The door's just opened. You know, I don't know. That one kind of seemed a little bit excessive, in my opinion. Why would you not have a chip reader? Every other table had one. But it was kind of stuff like that. And then it just went on. And I actually quit listening to it after a while, just because it was like, keep the line moving, you know, we ain't got all day and we're trying to get out of here. It's Sunday, y'all are the last group, you know, just make sure you keep the line moving. Don't sit and chat forever and da-da-da-da-da. He wants to go home just like y'all want to go home. We all want to go home. It's been a long weekend, you know, and I get that, but man, I'm telling y'all, it was just some of the stuff, it just really painted this guy out to be like he was going to be just real complete asshole, which... Okay, so that being said, he comes back from lunch and he walks by, he turns to us, you know, he waves and he goes into his room. And I was like, okay, you know, he waved to us. That's cool. And then the next thing you know, he's bringing out snacks to us in line. So like chips and nuts and fruits and stuff like that, you know, to the people in line. And I was like, wait a minute, if this guy was an actual, what people say he is, then I don't think he would have came out and did something like that, you know. But one of his workers that I have been working for him for years, and he has never has he ever done that, you know. So on that note, I got some John Carpenter spicy peanuts. Some spicy nuts here. Cajun. I'm probably going to eat these. I'm not going to lie. I don't know. Let me know. Should I keep them like this? Because it's just my word, you know, but... it's still pretty funny, right? John Carpenter, spicy nuts. So anyway, and then that was kind of when my opinion on him was like, these SOBs is lying, you know, but then I got to remember that everybody's experience is a little bit different. So the line starts to move, and you go through a couple of different people before you actually get to John Carpenter. And how it happens is you pass by this lady who's been sitting up there screaming at everybody for the past 2.5 freaking hours. And you get to these 2 security guards at the door before you go into the room that he's in. And somebody's supposed to take this damn ticket. Okay, so I have this ticket. I try to give it to the security guards, and they're like, nope, give it to that person. You know, his workers weren't the friendliest, I will say that. So as soon as you step in, the way this big room is set up is like a square U. Okay, so there's a long table here, and that's where all his like the prints, 8x10s, 11x4, posters, stuff like that. And then the lady is at the very end of it. Attached to the end of that table is another table. It goes along this way. It has a couple more items there that you could buy, and then John Carpenter's at the end of that table. So at the end of that table, it goes again to another table, and this one's completely empty on this side, and that's also the exit that way. So anyway, so I go up to her. I have exact cash, right? I give her the $125 for the autograph itself, and then I give her another $100 because I wanted to do a table picture. So she's like, perfect, exact cash, go on, keep the line moving. And so I go to turn around, and I was like, oh shit, I was supposed to give this to her. That's what the freaking bouncers just said, right? So I'm like, oh, here, I forgot to hand this to you. She's like, you know what, go ahead and keep it. I was like, oh, well, okay, thank you, and so I go to put this in my bag, and I look up, and the guy in front of me is walking away towards the exit that way, that damn empty table. And I was like, okay, so I go to step up, and John Carpenter freaking yells at me. I got killed by John Carpenter. I was crying. It's like, oh no. He was like, not yet, young lady. We're not finished here. And I swear to God, I could have died. I got scolded like a freaking 2-year-old by John Carpenter. I will admit now, I look back at it and it was freaking awesome. But at the time, I did. I could have cried. I was like, oh my God, I let this keep the line moving shit get to me, and I didn't even pay attention that there was another poster rolled up right in front of him. But granted, I will have to say, it was on other shit. You can't really see it, you know what I mean? Anyway, so this room is like really quiet. There's like, I think maybe 7 people max in this room. It's empty. It's quiet. It's cold. He keeps the room really cold. Anyway, so he just yelled at me, and I turn around to my husband, and I swear to God, this freaking guy is like, you just got scolded by John Carpenter, or you just got in trouble by John Carpenter, or something like that. Just fucking burst out laughing. And then, of course, that got my daughter freaking laughing, and this place is like dead quiet in there. So you hear these 2 loud mouths up here laughing, and I turn around, I'm like, holy shit, these loud SOBs. I turn around, and John Carpenter is sitting there, and I guess freaking my husband must have freaking triggered his ass too, because he's sitting in that chair, and he's like, he's laughing, and I was like, I'm gonna kill you when we get home. I was just like, oh my God. So everybody was laughing at me. After John Carpenter kind of composed himself a little bit, he's like, he goes, I promise there's enough for me to go around, young lady. Just be patient. You'll get your turn. I was like, Jesus Christ. So anyway, by this point that he signed that other one, I don't think they talked at all. The people in front, like the one person in front and then John Carpenter, I don't remember 2 words exchanged through them at all. So he got out of the way, and no way in hell was I about to move again and get in trouble again. So I just stood there until he told me to come on. If I was backing up that damn line, then I didn't want to get in trouble again. So he was like, okay, now you can come to me, And so I step up and everything. I was like, I am so sorry. I didn't see the poster. He was like, don't even worry about it. So I handed him my pen and my item, and I told him just to sign the front anywhere. So this is what he ended up signing. And he was like, who's that with you? I said, well, this is my daughter and this is my husband. He said, well, are they going to be in the picture with you? I said, after I got in trouble, they were like, no, we're not going to be in that picture. So I was like, well, I'm trying to talk him into it. And he's like, okay, come here, girl. So my daughter walks up, everything, and she's all like, really quiet, right? And he was like, what do you do? And that question must have caught her off guard or something, because she was like, I run track. because she's only 15, you know. And he was like, oh, really? You run track? And she said, yeah, I actually went to state this year. And he said, well, what do you run in track? You know, she said, well, I do 100-meter hurdles and I do 300-meter hurdles. He said, you went to state on hurdles? And she was like, yeah. He's like, wow, that's hard. He says, well, congratulations on state this year and good luck to state next year. And she was like, thank you. He said, girl, come around here. I want you under this arm. So he don't give people, no, he tells you what to do and you do it. So she went around, got under his arm and everything. And he was like, come here, young lady. So she was girl, I was young lady, okay? And so he's like, I want you under this arm here. So I go around the table as this was still drying, you know, and I get under his arm and we get into like pose, I guess, for the picture. And he turns to my husband and he was like, you could go on and leave the girls with me. And so my husband turns around to walk away and he's like, I'm just playing, get over here. Like, so he has a pretty cool sense of humor. It's definitely like a serious sense of humor, but he still cracks jokes and everything too. He's pretty damn funny, actually. So what ended up happening, so we posed for this picture, and I guess the guy kind of fumbled with my camera and flipped the camera, so he didn't think he took that picture. So I ended up getting two pictures for the price of one. It was so funny, but it kind of got to John Carpenter a little bit because he's like, what the hell's taking you so long? You know, he's like, I'm so sorry, I flipped the camera. He said, I'm an idiot. He said, well, let's get this show on the road, you know. So anyway, that was my experience with John Carpenter. I got in trouble. I could have died, and then he laughed at me. So, but I will have to say, I never in a million years would have thought that John Carpenter would have sat that long, at least 5 minutes, and talked with my daughter about track, y'all. Can you believe that? That's crazy. So anyway, afterward we were done, you know, I asked my husband and my daughter who their favorite people were at the end of the day. So for me and my husband both, it went James Jude Courtney, Damien Leone, and then John Carpenter. Those were our top three exactly in that order. For my daughter, it was different. She liked John Carpenter. That was her favorite, James Jude Courtney, and then Damien Leone. So we all had the same top three, but they were just a little bit out of order. You know what I mean? But I was like, really? You like John Carpenter the most? Because I figured she would have said like Suzanne Snyder or something like that because she was equally like just really cool too. And she was like, he's such a grandpa. She said, he's so squishy. It's so true, guys. He would probably get all kinds of pissed off, you know, if he heard somebody call him squishy, but it's so true. You know, she was like, I was afraid to really grab a hold of him or anything at first, but he sit up there and, you know, he puts a grip on you. And she said, so I was like, you know what, forget it. And so she grabbed him back and she said, he's just so squishy. So I don't think I'm ever going to be able to, I don't know, look at John Carpenter any kind of way again without, you know, thinking, okay, first off, I got in trouble. Secondly, my daughter thinks he's squishy. So anyway, these videos were fun. I really wish that I had more of them. Sorry this one took so long to get out, but I do have some haul videos after this, and I'm definitely going to try to be doing more of these type. I love the convention. It was great. There was some ups, there were some downs. James Jude Courtney was amazing. John Carpenter was equally amazing. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, y'all.